most of us started in a world where mobility was the exception to the rule, where desktops were the norm, or even pre-desktops were the norm, terminals were the norm, if you're as old as I am, right? And the idea that somebody would be working remotely or outside and have computing resources was just considered an exception. I think what's changed, and I've seen that change dramatically over the last 2 or 3 years, really, really dramatically over the last 2 or 3 years, is mobility is now the rule. It's become the beginning of the design criteria for our solutions, our architectures, and it has an impact across the stack. It has the impact across everything. And I think where we're headed is what happens when mobility sets the rules, where the prime, as you look forward sort of on the, on the general infrastructure part of the world, when people talk about sustainability, setting for the rules of how we manufacture and how we live, I think from an IT and a service provider perspective, mobility will set the rules and define how we run applications, how we build applications, how we host applications, how we provide services. And I think the most forward-looking organizations are ahead of that. And that's the fundamental defining idea behind what we call the mobileocracy. So what I want to talk about is, so when mobility sets the rules, and that's the design criteria, I want to talk about some of the inobvious things, right? We spend a lot of time talking about devices. They're sort of where the energy goes and all the attention goes. What I want to say to you is devices are cheap and networks are expensive, right? So the inobvious conclusion is you're going to see the device, we're going to see multiple devices, people have them, they're going to have them all over the place, they're going to be hanging around. When your television remote control becomes something you can check your email with, you know that's something that the world is changing. So, and we get a lot of attention on the devices, but it's the networks that are expensive, right? And they show no signs of becoming cheaper. The 3G buffet, all-you-can-eat buffet is clearly over. If you take a look at the new Verizon 4G plan, the LTE, it takes you 32 minutes of downloading to use up your entire month's worth of allocation for $50. You know, the service providers aren't going to be able to give us get $400 of wallet share every month from every enterprise employee, let alone not including data roaming and that sort of stuff. And so there really is a dramatic change. We can't think of 3G, 4G everywhere all the time. And so if you want to intervene in this world and you want to be oriented towards cost, don't worry so much about the devices, worry about the networks. Security is clearly going to have a makeover, is having a makeover. I think the dirty little secret is that these devices in our pockets are often more secure than the laptops we provision. You know, if we come from the Windows world and all the things we did to lock down those laptops and all the third-party software and capability and subscriptions and services, and you take these devices and they have a kill and wipe function right out of the box, right? Most of them now, increasingly the iPhone and the BlackBerry and that sort of stuff, in essence, they're more secure, and they'll become more secure, one, as there's a much greater awareness about security, and two, as they become personal devices for credit card use and pay by phone and near-field communication, is we're going to rethink that whole security thing, and this Windows model of having to put, $400 of software on a PC to make sure it's secure, I think is going to go the way of the dinosaurs. The destruction of place, and I think this will come up today a lot, is, with the concept of applications and storage in the cloud, increasingly collaboration applications that are much more capable, the idea of these multiple devices and networks being available. Place is not so important, but location, in fact, is, which is sort of the irony is. Now, you see people working here in San Francisco out of, I forget what they call it, the Citizens Hub, and the same thing happens in Seattle and London, where people come together and work. Citizen Space, thank you. And Starbucks positions themselves as a third place, and you hear people say, a number of studies have been done where people feel more productive outside of the office. And I think you see the destruction of place in sort of a big idea, and the advent of location, because when you're in those places, you want to know what colleagues are nearby, what collaboration you can do, what services are available to you, and we're seeing that happen across the stack. And then this is, in my personal life, this is a big one, the redefinition of social boundaries. I switched from an iPad to I switched from a Kindle to an iPad when the iPads came out as my book reader. And the great thing about that is I can read at night in bed while my wife is sleeping and see the backlit screen, and so I can read. The bad thing about it is my email comes in while I'm reading. And so it could be 3 in the morning, I could be up, not being able to sleep, and I'm reading email, right? And that's going to happen with all our devices, the social level. And I think, the pendulum is swinging towards that, the boundaries breaking down. It's going to have to swing back a little bit. There'll be people who are really thriving in that world. There'll be people who really redefine the boundary and, and do some stuff. And then there'll be people who need 12-step programs to sort of come off of it. I may be, in fact, one of those people that needs 12-step program.